John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Well, John, obviously one of the big stories today with the Deshaun Watson and Tony Busby, the attorney for those who have filed lawsuits against him. 20 of 24 have been settled. Your thoughts about that? I'm not that it makes any difference, I guess, on his suspension if there is one, but your thoughts about that?
There will be a suspension, and it doesn't have jack squat to do with the suspension. He could have done this originally for $30,000, then a total of $100,000, then $100,000 each. Can you imagine what it must have cost him now? And I've been saying for weeks that I believe the Browns, when they gave him the $230 million guarantee, they wanted some guarantee for him that these would be settled by the start of training. They're hoping that the suspension will be announced by the start of training camp. It'll probably be a news dump on a Friday night. But the fact is, I'd love to know who advised Watson against settling way back 14, 13 months ago when it could have been so much cheaper. And the four who have not accepted a settlement could want more money, or they could actually want to go to court.
John, how significant do you think the suspension will be?
Well, I think it would be a season. I was arguing with a friend of mine who covers the Browns. He thinks it'll be less. And I said, if you read all of those lawsuits, and there are so many, he is guilty of terrible judgment. He's caused embarrassment to the NFL. He's embarrassed himself. That's the reason he's going to get suspended. They said if the suits go to court, it would not be during the season. So this would go on for the women accusing him at least another season. The main person who's been out front, Ashley Solis, has said from the get-go she's gotten death threats. It's ruined her career, but she has been the out front person for the other plaintiffs. And I would guess ultimately she would end up with the largest settlement.
John, I know it's not going to happen, and I'm not even quite sure if it's possible, but I know that Nick Caserio did have to address, I guess, what online rumors about the trade being undone between the Texans and Browns. I mean, have you had to kind of combat some of those sorts of questions?
Those are some of the biggest dumbass questions I've ever heard.
Thank you.
I haven't addressed them because there was no chance. You can't undo a trade.
Right.
When you make a trade and a guy passes his physical, then you take all the risk. And he passed his physical, and he's the Browns' problem.
The best shot they would have, John, is if there's some sort of language in the contract that would undo it if he has any kind of discipline. But this contract for the Browns seems to be pretty ridiculous.
They said that they included some language in there, depending on the suspension, that would protect them. Now, they have insurance for contracts like this, and so if he's suspended for the season, it's only going to cost him like $1.5 million because they gave him that low base salary, because when you're suspended, you only lose game checks. So they claimed that didn't have anything to do with it, but we all knew they were lying through their teeth. It had everything to do with it. And what would be very interesting is if Roger Goodell said, we'll let you play this season, we're going to suspend you in 2023, when his money jumps up into double-digit millions. Then the Browns would scramble to redo it again and tell us it had nothing to do with the suspension.
What did you say you think the suspension will be?
A season.
The full season? And then obviously he would appeal that. And do you feel like they would go down below a full season?
I think that it would make Roger Goodell look really bad if he reduced the suspension, in which 24 women have all said similar things in their civil suits about what he did or asked them to do. Trevor Bauer had one woman suspended 2 seasons. No charges have been filed by him. There was the grand jury didn't indict him either. And I don't think he'll be suspended for 2 years. That's why I think he'll get 1. Anything less than a season, the NFL is just going to get bombarded with criticism. I think when they announce it, it needs to be a case where most of the people say, I understand, but there's still going to be a significant portion that thinks he's being railroaded because of who he is and how much money he makes. I think you don't want it to be where 70% is against your decision.
John, news coming down that Roger Goodell is going to testify in front of that House Oversight Committee that Dan Snyder will not testify in front of. How do you think that is going to go? And if Roger Goodell isn't going to shed any real light on anything that he heard about that investigation, does he have a point of testifying other than to make himself look cooperative?
None whatsoever. Of course, he's not going to reveal anything. He's a master with master PR people telling him what to say and how to react. It only looks good that he's cooperating. And as far as Daniel Snyder, this may be the best decision he's ever made, maybe the only good decision he's ever made. What purpose would it serve him to show up in front of a bunch of politicians trying to make a name for themselves with their tough questions? And it would serve no purpose for him to go there unless he was under a subpoena, which he's not.
You know, John, with now Cleveland in that position, what happens? They got this horrible relationship with Baker Mayfield. What do they do?
Jacoby Brissett was signed to be their starting quarterback for the games in which Watson's suspended, and the team that will be rooting hardest for them to lose as many games as possible is the Texans, since they have two more number one picks and other picks in the trade.
John, Rob Gronkowski, you believe in this retirement?
His agent doesn't. Drew Rosenhaus said he thinks Brady will give him a call and he'll come out.
Right.
And I believe Gronk is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I tweeted, if he keeps coming back, I'll be on the other side of the grass before he's eligible. And I'd love to see him on a studio show. I think he would crack people up. He's irreverent. He says what he thinks. He's got a great personality. You know, he might be more comfortable going to Vegas and announcing WWE, but I'd love to see him shake up one of those studio shows.
He's funny, man. He right now is among the top 3 to 5 who are selling things on television. Barkley, Shaq, Brady, among isn't he? A bunch of them. Yeah, it seems like to me. All right.
Who doesn't like the Gronk? Everybody likes the Gronk.
He's a monster.
Look, I love his USA. Frank was in the Army.
The USA, yeah. Then he tried to do it
USA,
voice. Yeah. Thank you, John. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Sick 'em.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us. Sick 'em 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
It is interesting what he said about Roger Goodell. There's no, he's going to testify, but there's no way that he's going to throw an owner under the bus. There's no way that he's going to say, I knew all this stuff and I read this report and I decided that nothing had to be done about it. I read all these terrible things that happened in the organization and determined that John Gruden had to go, who didn't even work there. I mean, that it's going to be a dog and pony show with Roger Goodell going there, and he's going there because Daniel Snyder won't. So he's going to take the bullet for a guy. And if I'm Roger Goodell and I'm the 31 other owners, I got to feel some sort of way about this, and that, Dan, you've caused this problem. But we're the ones who
What is the number one thing that creates a suspension in the NFL? Damaging the shield.
Yeah.
Snyder has melted it.
Yeah.
In many, many ways, even if a lot of the allegations against him aren't true. All right.